Hey guys, my name's Sarah Prager, and I'm here to tell you why I think you should be a history nerd. And it's because I think that we all know this feeling of going through being a teenager. It's not really fun for anyone. It can be very isolating. But imagine it's even harder because you're a closeted gay teen in a small town where you don't know any other LGBT people at all, and you feel completely alone. That sense of community, that LGBT community in this case, is really missing in that situation, and that's where LGBT history comes in. I think that kid should be a nerd, specifically a history nerd, even though nerds are thought to be excluded socially, so that might sound counterintuitive in this case. You can meet LGBT people by finding them in the history books, even if you don't have them in your physical space. So that's actually what worked for me. When I came out when I was 14 as a lesbian, I didn't know other LGBT people in my town. And so I found them in history books, on history websites. And there were icons like Christina of Sweden, who gave up being queen so that she wouldn't be forced to marry a man. And Willem Arendeus, who was a resistance fighter against the Nazis. And he was openly gay while doing this courageous activism. And his last words were, "Let it be known that homosexuals are not cowards," which I found very powerful. And I had this painting commissioned of him. Albert Cashier was a transgender soldier in the US Civil War. There were over 200 female-bodied Americans fighting as men in this war, and Albert was able to use the war to have a male identity afterwards, too. Bayard Rustin, major leader in the civil rights movement here in the US, worked with Martin Luther King Jr. And Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon, they were a couple who co-founded the first lesbian rights organization, the Daughters of Bilitis, in California in the 1950s, and they were married in California 50 years later. So all of these people made me realize I wasn't the first person to have these confusing feelings. I wasn't alone. Being LGBT is not some passing fad that only started, in the last decades. And all of these people and so many others made these sacrifices so that I could live as safely and openly as I do today. They just either by their LGBT rights activism or just by living openly as LGBT completely changed the world really courageously. And so these are the feelings of community and love that I wanted to bring to the next generation, but in a way that they get. Something as easy as scanning a Facebook feed, not actually going to the library like I did, because what teenager wants to do that? But there were some obstacles. LGBT students don't feel safe in school, and even if they do, LGBT history is not taught in school. Filters on public computers block LGBT content, etc. So I took LGBT history out of books and out of internet searches and put it in a standalone mobile app called Quist. The way it works is that you tap on a screen like this. There's over 800 events from LGBT history in the database. And when you tap on it, you get a little blurb that's really short, digestible, scannable, and you can just browse through them really easily, the way that we're used to getting information today. Quist has been downloaded in over 100 countries, and half our user base is under the age of 25. So we're already achieving our mission in this first year of bringing LGBT history to LGBT youth around the world so that they can feel those positive impacts in their lives and feel less alone. So no matter what your community is, I encourage you to learn about women's history or Black history or LGBT history, etc., and find those people who inspire you, who you see a part of yourself in them, or you see a piece of them in you, and tell me about it with this hashtag, and I hope you'll be a nerd with me. Thank you.